All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where today we are looking through this slate. Usually, we do a little recap of what happened last night, but it doesn't matter because it was a showdown and I didn't play. So let's get right into today's slate. Just so you guys know, today is a Friday, so one of my busier days. So we'll have this show, NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where we just kind of walk through the slate. Uh, Later today at 4, we will have the pre-lock show where we dig a little bit deeper and actually look at how we're going to implement and who we're going to increase exposure to on this slate and decrease exposure to the slate. So I definitely recommend checking out the pre-lock show later today. You have to be a VIP member to have access to that show. So click the link in the description if you're not, and feel free to use the promo code BOB for a 10% discount, I believe. All right, guys, let's get it. Let's jump into this slate. B-Dubs, good to see you in here, man. And also, I know we had some wins on Wednesday, so I don't remember what happened on Wednesday. I got a little too cute on Wednesday, going a little too heavy on Jamal Murray. But congrats to everyone who did well. Sorry, I don't remember how everyone who did crush, but congrats anyway. Getting into the slate, though, we have the Hornets against the Wizards. This game, and really this slate, thankfully, isn't too full with injury news, and we know pretty much what to get so far. I'm sure we'll get a little bit of craziness as we power through the day, but at least as of right now, it doesn't seem too insane. Good to see you too, Fatal Fam. All right, guys. On the Wizard side of things, we have Roy Hakamura still out. Delon Wright is still out. The Hornets are relatively healthy. Terry Rozier was not on the injury report this morning. LaMelo Ball is still out. Hayward's still out. Dennis Smith Jr. is still out. All the guys who have been out forever are still out. So pretty much on the Wizard side of things, really Kristaps Porzingis has been on fire over the last few games. And, we like to play bigs against the Hornets, so I think we can definitely look at Porzingis again here. Bradley Beal, I have been chasing a ceiling game from him for what feels like forever. To be honest with you guys, I've been doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. So thankfully, he should be low owned, so it won't be too much. Kenny G, Thomas, good to see you guys in the chat. On the Charlotte Hornets side of things are a little bit more interesting. With Ball, Hayward, and Smith off the court so far this season, Terry Rozier is leading the team in usage at 31.1%. Next, we have Kelly Oubre at 29.2%. And then when it comes like Theo Maledon, I think I don't think he's that exciting of a play, but he's also someone we can consider as a value option too. So that's pretty much this game. Not too exciting. I mean, I think you can always look at like PJ Washington, Mason Plumlee, I feel is appropriately priced. But PJ and Terry and Oubre are my like GPP guys I want to keep a pulse on throughout the slate. It's an 11 gamer, so we're not going to have to force exposure. We can't force exposure in every spot, but definitely an interesting one to consider. Next game, we have the Miami Heat against the Boston Celtics. The Heat, their injury report is always really long. Pretty much everyone is probable, is probably the best way of thinking about it. And then we have Dwayne Dedman as questionable. Nikola Jovic is questionable. But pretty much like Jimmy Butler's expected to play. Tyler Herro is expected to play. Quite a few options there. Dave asked, do you lock in Terry in DK GPPs? So Dave, if you ever have a chance to watch the pre-lock show, I am not big on locking in guys. That's not really my play style. I MME, so I'm either playing 20 lines to 150 lines on a slate. So when it comes to Terry, as long as there's not any injury news, I'll probably only have somewhere between like 5 and 15%, if not lower, as like a GPP play for me. If he was a core play for me or someone that I really liked, it would be like 60% potentially or more. Or even like, or even like 20 to 30% if they were a leverage play for me, which Terry could be. We'll see on the pre-lock show. Yeah, Jimmy Bucket's expected tonight. So yeah, Jimmy Butler expected, Tyler Herro expected. When the Miami Heat are healthy, they're less interesting of a play for me, which is disappointing. because this game is going to be one that I want to watch. It should be a fun game. But I mean, Tatum has been on fire for the Boston Celtics. You can't ignore him on these slates at this point. He's having a remarkable season. Uh, so he's probably the guy I would consider like a GPP play here as well. The matchup isn't great, but he's been outstanding. So he's always going to be an elite option. Outside of that, if everyone ends up being healthy and playing, I'm not particularly excited about this game. So I'll probably let the DS decide what it wants to do with a lot of these guys. Nice, Dave. I would recommend, like, we definitely have some single entry coaches who can give you advice on your lines and things of that sort. Uh, I always try to make sure that I don't like to give advice on things that I'm not doing. So I can always tell you, like, hey, I like this guy. Ooh, I really hate this guy in your lines. If you were to pop in the Discord and ask me a question, but I always try to at least be transparent in what I'm doing and how I'm trying to give advice, because I think that's probably important for you to know too. I hope. All right. Next up, we have the Magic against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Magic do have a few guys out. They have Jalen Suggs out. Mo Bamba is questionable. Gary Harris is out. Chuma Okeke is out. Wendell Carter Jr. is still out, along with Jonathan Isaac for the Magic. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, we have Jared Allen out still. Kevin Love is questionable. Lamar Stevens is probable, while Windler and Rubio are out like they've been for a while. With that being said, the front court of Bol and Paolo Banchero have not been great from a defensive standpoint and or a rebounding standpoint when the other guys like Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. are out. So that makes the Cleveland Cavaliers front court slightly more interesting for me. Like, I think Evan Mobley's already popping naturally. I think this is a solid spot for him. If Kevin Love plays, I think he could be a little interesting. I think Karis LeVert is simply just too cheap. Like 4,700 is too cheap for the minutes he's seeing at this point. So definitely some interesting pieces here that I'm going to want some exposure to on the Cleveland side of things. For the Magic is going to depend on who is actually healthy. Bol didn't have the best game last slate, which was disappointing because I love sometimes when it comes to DFS, I like to remember that I'm playing for fun too. So sometimes I'll just put some exposure on some guys I just want to have a reason to watch, like Bol. And I always try to be transparent about that in the chat too. During the pre-lock show, I'll tell you guys, hey, I'm just doing this for fun. Like, this is not a sharp play. Don't do it. But I always like having a little bit of exposure to Bol because I feel like he has a ton of upside with the potential he has. Kenny G said, I know it's early, but it looks like a damn Spurs night again. Always popping in the DS. Oh man, Kenny, you're not wrong. I really do feel like every slate we're like, we can consider the Spurs as alternative value, and it's like, shut up. Damn it, I don't want to do that again. I'm cautiously optimistic. It's an 11-game slate. We'll have more news, but at this point, the Spurs, just like the Thunder and just like the Magic in a way, are just always going to be semi-viable because they're cheap because they're bad, but they still have upside because they can have explosive games. But yeah, don't forget about the Cavs tonight. I mean, I think even Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland have a little bit of upside here as well. I don't know who my leverage play is going to be yet, but it would not. I definitely want to be over on some of these pieces, like probably Evan Mobley or Donovan Mitchell. Still figuring it out. And then I already mentioned LeVert, kind of the obvious one there. All right, next up we have the Denver Nuggets against the Atlanta Hawks. Let's see, any injury news in this one? All right, the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray is probable with the quad concern, I guess. Michael Porter Jr. is out still again, which is nice. And then Jeff Green is doubtful to play. On the other side of this game, probably the more important news, on the Hawks side of things, we have Clint Capella, questionable. That's huge. Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable. That's pretty big. He's been out for most of the year so far. And so if Bogdanovic comes back, even in limited minutes, that scares me a little bit. He's just like the other Bogdanovic. They are both pretty heavy shooters. Jalen Johnson is questionable. Justin Holiday is out. Frank Kaminsky is questionable. That doesn't matter. But the two pieces that are huge here is John Collins is out and DeAndre Hunter is out. Yeah, definitely insane what's going on here. Definitely Trey is going to pop. DeJounte Murray, if he's going to be under-owned here, I'm more than happy to get leverage on him in this spot. DeAndre Hunter and John Collins are not super heavy usage guys, but they play a lot of minutes, and it's going to force Young and Murray to take on more of the offense. Usually, I would even have more interest in Clint Capella. Him being questionable is concerning, but if he ends up being out, guys, Okongwu is this whole team is going to be super fun to play if the news breaks the right way. I'm getting too hype on this, so moving on. On the Nuggets side of things, like I said, I got a little too cute with Jamal Murray on Wednesday. But I love Jamal Murray. I've been saying it all season, but I don't love playing guards against the Atlanta Hawks this year. It's something that we've done season after season after season, and it's worked for us. But this year, Trae Young has been better defensively. DeJounte Murray is good defensively. And it's just a situation that just sounds better due to our previous biases. But this season, Atlanta has been pretty good against guards. Now, the real question here is, which one am I going to go with? My love for Jamal Murray or the numbers? We'll see. Very TBD. I'm kind of leaning towards Murray still. I think he has upside at 7,100 with MPJ out. You are right, Jeff. Bruce Brown is always in play when one of those guys are out, so I don't hate it. Jimmy Hayes said, "Good morning. Any league suggestions? You make League of Legends? I don't know what you mean, man. I don't think league's going on right now, though. Yeah, I think it's a trade day. Yeah, I love this whole team. Jimmy said C. Payne should be a good play. Yeah, with Chris Paul out, Cameron Payne is always in play as well. But yeah, guys, I really like the Hawks today. The Nuggets side of things, we can definitely look at Jokic as well. The Hawks haven't been a great defensive team against centers this year, so I think we can definitely target them with Jokic, but matchups don't really matter anyway. If Jokic, you just need him to have a ceiling performance, and that's always a possibility for him. Mentioned Bruce Brown. Aaron Gordon, he's definitely going to be in a player pool as well. And then we mentioned Bruce Brown and KCP. I think they're more solid, like secondary GPP plays, with Bruce Brown being higher than KCP for me. All right, next up we have the Lakers at the Bucks. Milwaukee should be getting healthier today. Chris Middleton should be returning. He's probable from his wrist injury. I think everyone's assuming he should see a minute restriction, so I doubt he'll play his regular amount of minutes. So that means that Jrue Holiday, Giannis should definitely still see a little bit of a boost than they will over the next few games. With Chris Middleton back, I'm honestly not super excited about this team anymore. I know Jrue popped off on Wednesday. I am so glad at the end of the pre-lock show, we looked at the cheat sheet and looked at some of the other coaches' cores, and they had Jrue Holiday. And I didn't really understand why Jrue Holiday was popping for him. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is a really soft matchup. And so I put him in exposure on Jrue Holiday, so I was at least matching the field. Thankfully, that happened. But yeah, Jrue Holiday is also in play against the Lakers. They're not great against guards. They're not great against anything, to be honest with you. So, like, I think Giannis GPP play, Jrue also in play. The rest of the Bucks, I don't love. The Lakers in general are a team that I don't like to target too often when they're healthy. Like LeBron James and Anthony Davis are always guys you can consider for like a GPP, but not my favorite team to target. Kenny, you think AD smashes? Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't shock me at all. I don't think I'll have too much exposure if they're all healthy, but we'll see. DFS leagues? Sorry, man. I'm not in any DFS leagues, I don't think. I think the coaches have some, but I'm kind of in and out on leagues. Thomas said, when there are a lot of options, what is your strategy for 20 max since you can't have exposure to all of them? Yeah, so My process for my 20 max strategy and my 150 max are very, very similar. I like to have my core plays that are going to be at least 60 or above, sometimes 65, 70, 75, 80, just depends on which core it is and depends on the slate. And then I make sure I have leverage plays. So guys that I'm going to be double the field on. At least 2 to 3 guys that are going to be ideally lower owned. I think a lot of guys like Mr. 5 Cents and some other members like Chilol and other guys have been reaching out lately, just talking about the pattern they've been seeing of low owned guys being in the nuts pretty consistently. And that's super true. And that's something you don't see on FanDuel a lot. On FanDuel, you don't really have to find that low owned gem. But on DraftKings, you kind of have to have that perfect line where you found that hidden stud. And so I do that by putting and having leverage spots, while alternatively, you can try to do that by using the sim model and other ways of doing it too. So yeah, I hope that was helpful to some extent. But yeah, this game we have. I'm not too interested in the Lakers, but I think you can definitely look at them from like a GPP perspective. I like the Bucks defense. I don't like to target them too aggressively when I don't have to. Outside of that, we have the Raptors and the Nets. The Raptors are looking healthier, I believe. Pulling up my notes. Yeah. They only have Otto Porter out. Chris Boucher was not on the injury report, and then Precious Achua is still out. So their starters are back and they are in action. So I think we can consider them in this matchup. Not one that we have to be afraid of. I think Pascal Siakam, he's seeing his minutes slowly but surely start to creep back up. Boucher and Thad Young, they're a little bit too expensive for me with everyone healthy. Scotty Barnes, I think we can consider here, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have a ton of exposure. He's not popping for me too hard as of yet, so we'll see if he pops up later in the DS. Outside of that, not super interested. Well, I mean, I think we can always consider like Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet. I think they're both interesting. On the net side of things, wait a second, guys. I gotta get this dog. She's crying like a crazy. Whew, guys. You can't control dogs. Even they don't know what's going on. All right. Ricky, calm down. Calm down. All right. On the net side of things, Kevin Durant has ceiling for days. We can definitely look at him here. I know I keep betting on Kyrie Irving and losing. Probably gonna keep doing that again here. Just a thing. Don't have to follow it. I just can't get off the train at this point, which is sad. Ben Simmons is out again. So Nick Claxton has definitely been performing well in these situations. He was okay last time, but not great. Yeah, you were right on with that one. You were right. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Uh, all right. Sixers. Hmm. We have Tobias Harris questionable. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. Tyrese Maxey is out. James Harden is out. Uh, Tom said, no more Kyrie. Guys, I agree. I'm sick of being on the train, but I follow the model. When the model's on something, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to stick to it. So it's not just my bias, it's the model also speaking some wisdom too. But I guess it might not be wisdom if it's been wrong on Beal and Kyrie. But those of you who caught it on the pre-lock show, the sim model on Wednesday had Dyson popping really, really hard. And it was mentioned on the pre-lock show, and he smashed on Wednesday. So the model's right sometimes. The process has worked long enough for me. It's okay if it makes me lose some money sometimes. B-Dub said Ty Warren is coming back too, which may affect other guys on the Nets. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like Warren, he either does absolutely nothing or decides he wants to shoot now. You just really never know. But you're right. Like, that's just more minutes that can limit some of the other guys. So, like, Joe Harris, we got that call right on Wednesday, which was nice. He didn't smash, but he exceeded value, which is good. But those guys, Royce O'Neal, are guys that I would be less excited to play today. I hope so. Like, maybe if Curry loses more endorsements, he needs to. Curry is December Norman Powell. Thomas said went to T Wolves game on Wednesday and Noel and Ant smashed. Yes, Edwards was a core play, I believe, or close to it. So glad he crushed. And Noel, I should have increased my exposure to him, but I was at least around field, so that was nice too. Glad you had fun at the game. I need to go to a basketball game. I haven't been to one in a while. All right, back to this. So yeah, Tobias Harris being questionable. I already like Joel Embiid a lot already. If he's out, I like him even more. This is just an Embiid shot, hopefully low ownership. Exactly. Who's going to stop Embiid tonight? I mean, we can honestly say that almost every night, but who's going to stop Embiid tonight? All right, on the Grizzlies side of things, we have Jake LaRavia, doubtful. Desmond Bane is out. Zaire Williams is out. Danny Green is out. So honestly, nothing too exciting there since Bane has been out for a while now. Everyone's priced well. John Morant, I'm fine having GPP exposure to, but I doubt I'll force it today against the Sixers. Anyone else look interesting from the Grizzlies? I think you can consider JJJ, Jaren Jackson Jr. He's been in great form, but the price tag is ticking up. But he's still probably cheaper, too cheap for what he'll end up being. The matchup against Embiid is scary because he can get in foul trouble pretty easily. Jaren Jackson Jr. used to be known for that. But yeah, ultimately nothing too exciting here. Something to note is that Embiid doesn't have the best track record against Steven Adams. I don't personally care about that too much, but it's only fair that I share that with you guys as well. He's averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, which isn't awful, while shooting 36.4% in his last 2 games against Steven Adams. So, concerning. If Ja stays under 10%, I'm locking him. He ends up in nuts line 65% of the time is what 5 cents is saying. All right, man. I see. Hope it works out for you. And then outside of that, we can look at Melton and Milton. They have high ceilings. Again, like none of these plays are really going to pop off the board. Even Steven Adams is looking like a solid fantasy points per dollar play, but the matchup isn't one that I love, so I doubt I'll have a ton of exposure there. I'll probably let the DS just handle that one. See, we're on the same page and I didn't even see it. All right, next we have Pelicans at the Spurs. In this game, Brandon Ingram will be out, but CJ McCollum is listed as questionable. He's finally cleared health and safety protocols. So, uh, usually when Ingram is out, CJ McCollum leads this team in usage at, well, no, it's Zion by 0.3%. It's Zion at 28.6%, and then CJ McCollum at 28.3% usage rates. So, Zion, once again, uh, should be a guy that we consider here, I think, at a high usage rate against the Spurs, who aren't fantastic defensively. I don't hate this spot um at all. I'm looking at their injury news for the Spurs. Josh Richardson is doubtful. Doug McDermott is doubtful. Charles Bassey is out. Romeo Langford is probable. Jakob Poeltl is still out. Jeremy Sochan is out. Blake Wesley is out. So, yeah, laundry list of guys out for the Spurs, which is why you are going to see them pop. Zach Collins is going to be popular. We can look at Keldon Johnson Jr. Or Keldon Johnson. We can look at Trey Jones. Devin Vassell has upside here. I don't want to forget about him because he's the more expensive guy, but his ownership is drastically lower. The Pelicans are a really good defensive team against shooting guards, so that's something to consider. But sometimes I still like taking those shots on high upside, low ownership guys. I mentioned that this is kind of like an average matchup for Zion, so that might be why he's not popping so much. But Jakob Poeltl is out. He's kind of a staple of that front court that kind of makes things tougher defensively. Zach Collins is someone that Zion should be able to feast on. So at least it's pretty early. I still need to dig deeper into research for the entire slate. But at least as of right now, Zion's I like this spot for him. Keita Bates Diop, we can consider once again. Isaiah Roby. Nance is starting to pop a little bit too. Once again, like when there's plenty of injuries, we can definitely consider it. But I think Zion Williamson and Zach Collins are the main guys that I want exposure to. Let's see. Jeff said, do you think Dyson D will be chalky or low owned? As of right now, he's projected to be low owned. I mean, literally, even I just kind of went through the team and forgot to mention him again, even though he's had some really good ceiling performances so far this season. The model likes him once again today too. So worth considering. I haven't ran the DS yet, so I don't know how much exposure I'll have. But again, I like to follow them. Again, like the model is just a tool I use, not the only thing I follow. But if the rest of my research kind of leads me to Dyson Daniels popping a little bit, then I'll consider it. Anyone else? I think primarily Zion Williamson and Zach Collins are the guys I want from this game, though. Outside of that, I'll definitely look at like Keldon Johnson, Vassell Jones, CJ, like I mentioned, maybe even Joe Val. It's like I said, guys, you really just have to, when it comes to Joe Val, you have to say, will they consider this center a viable threat? And against the Raptors, against Siakam, it looks like they did. In the games where there isn't a true center, that's when you don't see Joe Val play heavy minutes because they go smaller, or he gets in foul trouble. So, I mean, I do think Zion and I do think like Zion might be the better center option for them. I don't think the Spurs are a viable threat, so I don't think this will be a Joe Val night. But you ask yourself that question, and if you feel differently, then you go from there. All right. Next up, we have the Pacers at the Utah Jazz. The Pacers, we have Tyrese Halliburton, questionable. That's huge. It's possible TJ McConnell would start for Tyrese Halliburton if he was out. But McConnell, his usage rate is pretty low. And he also doesn't see a ton of assists, but he's cheap. We'll see if he's out how viable of a play he would be, but That's pretty much what that rotation will look like. Miles Turner, we talked about it last slate. The Jazz are bad against centers. Miles Turner has been really good this year. I like Miles Turner here. If his ownership stays low, I do feel like this could be a potential ceiling spot for him. So I definitely don't hate that. If Tyrese Halliburton plays, you can definitely consider him at this point. I think everyone knows Tyrese Halliburton is always in consideration as a GPP play, especially coming off the questionable tag. His ownership will naturally be lower. Yeah. Clarkson and Laurie, they are both popping right now. I will say that when it comes to Markkanen, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride with him. The ceiling is there, we know that, but he doesn't hit that ceiling very consistently. He doesn't have a lot of consistency just in general. So I like to view him as a GPP option. He's not going to be a core for me. If he is popping that much in the DS, I'll limit it. But for the most part, I'll just let the DS do what it wants to do. Ideally, hopefully, just kind of staying around field weight. Jordan Clarkson had a big game last time out. I'm comfortable with Clarkson with Conley still out here. That's fine. No issues with that. Sexton, agreed. Like, I like him still too. Mike Conley is out, so they're both starting. I'm fine with it. Malik Beasley, I'll even continue to consider at 4,900 with Conley out. I'm fine with it. Jared Vanderbilt is never a guy I get a ton of exposure to, or at least not very often. He'll probably be in my player pool, but I doubt he'll be a core player or anything like that. All right. We're almost done, guys. Only 2 more games left. All right. We have the Phoenix Suns against the Houston Rockets. For the Suns, the only news that really matters here is that Chris Paul is still out. And with Chris Paul out, Devin Booker has been absolutely amazing. Like, lights out, breaking slates. It's insane. So Devin Booker at his 31.5% usage rate with Chris Paul out is definitely viable and in consideration against this really soft Rockets defense. So no issues with him. Definitely I'll have at least a little bit of exposure. We'll see if it's enough to be considered leverage. DeAndre Ayton has also been in really good form over the last few games, and he's still he's not as cheap as he was. He's getting close to the 8K range. If he surpasses that, then I'll start to get a little bit more iffy. But at 7,900, I'm still okay with it. He just had a 50-point game. Yeah, he's had at least 50 points in 3 of his last 4 games. So yeah, he's been pretty good. Yeah, you're not wrong. 5 cents. Like, Chris Paul is more than happy. He's been doing fine this whole time. This is why we were wondering, like, why he looked a little bit different during the playoffs. Like, he didn't look as focused as we've seen him before last year. I think we might know why now. All right, next up we have the Bulls at the Golden State Warriors. Last game on the slate. Steph Curry has ceiling for days. I feel like I don't need to tell people to play Steph Curry. I don't know how much I'll have. I usually let the DS decide what it wants to do with Steph Curry, so we'll see. I don't think the matchup really stands out here, so it's not a spot where I feel like I need him. But again, high ceiling guys, I'm always fine having exposure to. What's more complicated for me is the Bulls side of this game. Like, DeMar DeRozan has been really good this year. Vucevic has been solid. Zach LaVine is priced extremely well. The Golden State Warriors have allowed the most 3 points this season. And so when I hear that screams like Zach LaVine. But to be honest with you guys, I don't have a lean yet. But like, knowing that the Golden State Warriors allow a lot of threes screams LaVine at this point. When it comes to Draymond and Klay Thompson, I think we can consider them as well. They've been solid so far this season and still aren't super expensive. So I definitely won't be like trying to limit them. Kevin Looney has a little bit of a softer matchup here, but he always projects well, but rarely has a ceiling. So I doubt he'll be someone that I'm super excited to play or have a ton of exposure to. Andrew Wiggins hasn't been popping as much for me as of late, and he hasn't really had any gigantic games, so I'm fine not having a ton of exposure there. And then similar story to Jordan Poole. So, guys, that's the slate in a nutshell. Like I said, today's a busy day, so I have a lot I need to get to. 5 cents likes Bridges and Ayton in key spot. Yeah. I think Bridges is an interesting Suns player too that I forgot to mention. He definitely has some upside on this slate. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call. So definitely, like I said, I love this Hawks game. That's one I'm gonna have a lot of exposure to. And like we said, we're gonna have some Spurs and Pelicans exposure too. And that's at 12:30. We're going to get more news. There's going to be more spots that pop up. So check into the pre-lock show later today. It will be at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to get a haircut, so hopefully that's all done in time. But yeah, look forward to seeing everyone later today at 4 p.m. Good luck. Have fun doing some research and look forward to touching base with everyone then. Peace.